Month 2 in the time of the Eternal, Month 5, Day 19, of 2023. I was asked a question, who will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit? And he himself answered, the clean of hands, he who has no deceit in his mouth and he who has no iniquity in his heart, and in his mind prevarication does not rise, he whose soul is upright towards me and pride flees from his side, he who, being trampled, mocked and run over, does not respond in the same way, but cries out to me in the secret of his heart, he who keeps his eyes from sin, turns his ears from infamy, his nose from the smell of sin, his hands from morbid seduction and his mouth from subterfuge, he who takes care of his feet to tread where there is strange fire, and to his belly only brings life instead of death, he who in his bed in the late night, even in his unconscious, fights against evil, so that this, the unconscious, learns to be subjected to me, he whose sin is in front of him and it is not indifferent to him, but shameful, and it brings him deep sadness and a great, hard desire to be cleansed in me, he who is not afraid to call sin by its name. And in peace, meekness and temperance loves the sinner but hates sin, he who keeps my sayings so as not to sin against me, he who meditates on my law day and night, he who, in me, learns to be free of spirit, even though his body is tied, he who sees adversity as a school of great salvific learning, he who rejoices in prompt salvation, his happiness is from his present, he who dominates his tongue from the root of the heart and mind, he who puts what belongs to others in the first place and what is his own, is not afraid to do it last, he who does not think of gain, but of doing well, he who does not put his trust in what he has, but in what he will have in me, he who rejoices with what he has and, for the rest, waits on me, he who listens to my words and his eyes of faith see what is veiled to the mortal, he who seeks me in prayer without ceasing, he who fights against his infernal self to get it out of himself, in my name, he who delights in my words, and early seeks me, he who makes the constant habit of rejecting the bad and only looking for the good, he whose God is Jehovah, and there is no other before him, nor after him, he who does not bow to paganism for convenience, he who makes my name holy in reverence, in his mouth, he who keeps my Saturdays in rectitude and does not take in vain, lightly, my prophetic feasts, he who honors his progenitors, but not above me, he who guards his hands and his mouth from committing homicide, he who does not fornicate or adulterate with his senses, he who, content with his own, never takes what belongs to others for himself, he who never uses spurious testimony against his brother, he who lives happily and gratefully with what I have given him, according to his effort and care, with the time that I give to everyone equally, he whose heart is upright towards me, he will receive the Holy Spirit from the Comforter that I left with you when I ascended to heaven with my Father. Faithful and true words that I leave, from the Eternal, for each one of you. May the Lord bless us.